we OG, oh no, G. You're not bullish enough, yeah. Oh no, you're not bullish enough. You ain't got the oh no. I get stoned by the bolo. Bitcoin set to overload, yeah. Experts on reload, yeah. You're not bullish enough, yeah. Oh no, you're not bullish enough. You ain't got the oh no. I get stoned by the bolo. Bitcoin set to overload. Experts on reload. Mempool getting hot. Everybody wanna rock, ayy. Rooms is coming, everybody on a knot, ayy. It's a nuisance, Ordinal Revolution, ayy. Ordinal Revolution. Yo, it's my guy for real, bro. Got French right now. Yo, BRC 420, bro. Yo, that shit on fire, bro. Imagine if he in here. Yeah, like it in the steel. Murder. I got balls of steel. Nookies on the field. Yeah, this shit for real. With no calls, I get so far. Got 100 phone calls that I go hard, and they gon' love me. Smoke weed, huddle back. I get shiesty. Where my Bitcoin looking lovely. All this Satoshi's nothing above me. Bitcoin's alive, what you gon' do? Mempool fees are high. Ordinal. Where does it stop? Nobody knows. It's a revolution, ayy. Bitcoin is the one, no substitution, ayy. With Shizzy and Yagobi, it's Ordinal Revolution.
Welcome back to Ordinal Revolution, where we cover the entire Bitcoin ecosystem, guys. My name is Yagobi, and I am the main host again, as Shizzy is out on vacation with his family. But we got our guy back, J25, with a lot of insight from the space. So we have a great episode for you guys today. We're going to go over multiple things. We're going to touch on Mark Cuban being a LARP, talking about how Bitcoin is only for the elite, and how the government needs to focus on the rest of crypto, the unbanked like him, he says. And then we're going to also touch on Apple Pay integrating NFC chips to integrate Bitcoin and have it open source for third-party companies. And then also a big congratulations to our guy, super fan from the Bitcoin Heroes project, as they minted out today. Some big stuff on the docket today. So let's get right to it. I'm going to bring up our guy, J25. What is going on?
Hey, thanks for having me again.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I know we always say it, but we appreciate you always bringing your insight to the show. So Bitcoin, didn't necessarily bounce back yesterday, still choppy. How are you feeling about the market today?
I'd say kind of the same old. There was some news about consumer spending being a little bit over projection. So the dollar did a little well with that, I think, is what I heard this morning, on a quick snippet. But yeah, I think we're just between this range, and we're gonna test a high or test a low, and then we'll really have the decision time. So if you are trading, probably be in and out quickly. If you're in the profit, sneak a stop loss in there and just be prepared for it to move around. But I mean, I think, like we were talking about yesterday, eventually we should get back towards that all-time high range. Maybe it's like high 60s, and that's really a decision point again, because we were on the Benji space this morning and looking at I think it was the weekly or the monthly chart, and it's just tapped up there 3 times now. Looks like it's kind of moving up there, or maybe it peters out beforehand. But yeah, we obviously all think it's gonna do more things in the near future, maybe intermediate term into next year.
Yeah, so you're pretty tied in with those guys, a lot of those good traders and stuff. So right now, would you say that it's probably not the best time for I guess beginners to trade? It's more of like the professional scalpers that would want to take advantage of this chop.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, a lot of them, just have been through this before and do see like the opportunity that can come, because you never know when it's going to happen. Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball. Neither of them will say that either. But yeah, it's a lot more choppy than usual. It's not easy mode. There's different periods of time where, if X happens, usually Y happens. But I'm still, trying to put in a long here and there. Hopefully, catch that break up to even like 62 and then have another decision point, and then I'd probably take profits and let it figure it out and see which way it goes. But yeah, it is nice being tied with them. But I started talking with them like last year extensively, and I definitely had plenty of failures with a small account, and just getting used to the interface. Even that's a great thing, because even if you've never done it, you're like, okay, like this position thing, this X thing, and just the first time I literally put in like a $1 bet, and just let it play out. So I went in and out. Same thing with like trading view. You can even do, like we talked about, paper trading. So it's like anything, like once you get more used to it, usually you're better. But yeah, choppy situations, like I was saying, just get in and out. If you're good enough to get in a good position, hopefully be patient, and then put that stop loss where you're at least free rolling and maybe get that move.
Yeah, exactly. $1 trade, huh? You probably pay more for fees, but the practice is good. The
Yeah.
practice is good. But we're gonna get into Bitcoin price action, talk a little bit more about kind of that trading type of activity later in the show. But before we get into the topics of the day, guys, if you're on the YouTube side, please smash that like for us. Subscribe if you're not subscribed to our channel. Turn those notifications on so you know when we go live. And on the Twitter side, guys, please, please, please share the space so we can educate as many people as possible. So let's get right into it. Let's get into some more of the generalized Bitcoin news headlines here. The first one is Morgan Stanley is now a top 5 holder of the BlackRock's ETF with a $187 million position. I know we hit on some of this. We hit on it pretty much every day, right? But I mean, it seems like the bigger names in the TradFi industry are starting to come into the headlines now.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? Is this a big deal, or is this just expected kind of status quo, in the future, what we should expect?
Yeah, probably a little bit of both, right? So it's good to see these headlines, more people getting into it. But yeah, if they're the ones controlling a big bag, that it also becomes a risk eventually someday. But they are going to look for more, a little bit more risk during this bull run, probably because they're anticipating things to move, and they probably have cash to spend that's just been sitting around getting 5% or whatever in treasury bonds and things. So maybe they're transitioning, moving some things around. We saw like Buffett moved a lot to cash, so not Bitcoin related or whatever, but people are going to be trying to start to position, and obviously a lot of people are bullish on Bitcoin. So this keeps lining up like that. People are selling maybe more retail because they're seeing their money that was down a ton back to even, or maybe in the profits from the last cycle, whereas like big institution, big whales on chain are generally accumulating at this position.
Yeah, those are some great points. And we don't have to stay on this topic very well. Actually, it's going to roll into the next one here. So I feel like the general Bitcoin topics are all related here. So we'll just kind of roll it in.
Cool.
Mark Cuban says the government shouldn't look to assisting Bitcoin maxis who are already rich, but focus on the unbanked people who need crypto like him. That was actually his statement. I don't think he, literally meant that. He knows he's a billionaire, but I think he's talking about for the underserviced people, that type of segment. But with what I just mentioned before this topic about how Morgan Stanley and more of these TradFi names are getting into the Bitcoin ETF, because that was actually for their fund, right? The $187 million position is for the Morgan Stanley fund. Should Bitcoiners be worried that the government's going to go towards like other parts of crypto and not help necessarily the Bitcoin sector?
I mean, I probably get where he's going at, right? There's a huge population, especially once you get outside the states, that's unbanked. So I get the general point, but obviously, as a billionaire with huge investments all over the place, you're obviously not unbanked. Come on, you can get a loan for $1 billion with a phone call, probably. But yeah, I don't know really where he was kind of going with this. If you're into crypto, like how can you ignore Bitcoin, right? Like
Yeah.
I just don't really get the like initial statement.
it was almost like he's playing politics here, right?
Right.
Because he's like, okay, the Republicans are trying to push for Bitcoin more than crypto as an overall industry. But I think
Mm,
this proves that he's like a LARP in our space because he doesn't realize what's happening on in Bitcoin right now.
yeah.
There's a good portion of people in our space that don't have a ton of Bitcoin, and
Yeah.
what they're trying to do is, basically be a part of the ecosystem build out, right? And
Yeah.
so, it proves that he's not necessarily informed in Bitcoin completely, and he's just kind of like the surface level contributor.
Right. I mean, I think he showed that last cycle. I don't think he was getting in early anything. I think he bought the most tops of
He actually
probably
got
in.
rugged a couple times
Yeah, he
too.
got right when he got into the NFT stuff. But I mean, even I think his tokens, he was buying Chainlink and other things. Aave, I know was the one he was really into when it was very overpriced and has probably receded, 75+% since then. So I haven't been like wallet peeking or anything. I just remember his general sentiments of that period. And I don't think he probably got some sweetheart deals or whatever, but the way things have gone for those tokens, especially the Ethereum ecosystem overall, has been pretty rough.
Yeah. Which is also like what you just said at the end of that statement. I think that's very interesting because even billionaires like Mark Cuban don't really get, just things handed to them. I
Right.
mean, in our space, right? Like you got to
Yeah.
work for it. You got to network here.
Mhm.
Obviously, I think if he probably put some effort, a little bit of effort, he probably could have, got some information that his tokens were going to get rugged or something. But yeah, so, I think what we can take from this is probably more political than anything of a statement,
Mhm.
and we should take it as such. What can make us at ease as like people that contribute to the Bitcoin ecosystem is you still have Morgan Stanley, buying $187 million worth of position for their fund in BlackRock's ETF. So that should make us feel at ease a little bit, right?
Yeah, yeah. And right now you have people like Morgan Stanley and other institutions wanting to buy Bitcoin. And over on like Solana, you have every face in the game from political to media to rapper, whatever, doing pretty much pump and dumps. I mean, arguably Iggy Azalea has been like the best dev of a
She's been
token, you know what I
doing
mean?
good, dude.
Right? Like the most consistent at least for a longer period of time than most. So, no, I have no idea. I have no skin in that game. I just find it like an interesting anecdote.
Yeah. And this next topic here, BTC Tap to Pay. Apple has opened up its NFC payment chip to third-party developers
Very
regarding
cool.
Bitcoin. So this should also make us feel at ease because now you have large corporations that would shy away from like Bitcoin and crypto. I'm
Mhm.
waiting for the Google headline next, right?
Like, didn't Apple block some wallets at one point or something too, I think?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
last towards the end of last cycle, maybe the
Mhm.
beginning of this one,
Yeah.
or maybe before that. But
Whenever.
nevertheless, Apple is obviously one of the largest corporations in the world, and they're coming on board saying, "Hey, look, we're going to add possibly like a Bitcoin tap to pay." So if this happens, right, is this kind of the aftermath trickle down from the ETF being approved? Is that or what's your opinion? Why is this happening now?
Yeah, and it's just becoming more of an understood payment rail, right? First you have like speculators, it could be that adoption curve if you want, the super early adopters, the next wave. And we're probably into that middle zone where the vast majority of companies are thinking about it, looking at it. Tesla's done it before. I know like gaming companies like Steam and other ones used to have it and don't, but are like slowly opening their eyes to, okay, maybe we'll let some crypto games back on, be a little more plugged in there. And then maybe it's a workaround, kind of like PayPal, etc. You can intermingle or Cash App crypto and cash and change it over. So, now if you have Apple Pay that's on, millions of phones throughout the world, then that's, obviously bullish.
Yeah. Do you see yourself using tap BTC tap to pay?
Probably not, but I'm not generally spending that. But I am interested in looking into some where you like deposit your crypto and then can use it. So since I am doing like day trading more often, I have more USDT. Obviously, I hopefully continue to earn that. So maybe I'll take a little bit of that and have it be kind of like a vacation fund or whatever. But obviously, yeah, most of my Bitcoin I plan on, hodling long term. Maybe if we do see a good run up into six figures, I even take some off of that. But there's definitely a bit of it that's going to stay in cold storage and just ride it out longer term.
Yeah, and you wonder how they're going to integrate this, right? Because you have the news with CB, BTC on
Hmm.
base chain, and
Yeah.
Coinbase is. I think Coinbase is going to be, as much as they have been a pioneer in our space. If if they become big and America, adopts crypto and Bitcoin and stuff, it's inevitable that they're going to be compromised eventually. And when I say compromised, I mean not from a security standpoint necessarily. I mean more from like the government's going to get intertwined
Right.
with it, right? And so it's kind of like, okay, does this help drive the price of Bitcoin up? Because this is going to be a lot of wrapped Bitcoin, and I know you have to have collateral to do wrapped Bitcoin. So, as an overall, is this good for Bitcoin's price action?
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I'm a little bit concerned that Justin Sun's name's been mentioned as well. If you know about his track record, it's not spectacular by any means. So yeah, another reason why cold storage, on-chain, mainnet, Bitcoin is the most secure. Anything else outside of that, is something different. And you're putting some trust, which means some risk in some entity, whether it's wrap Bitcoin on Solana or ETH, or now this one base one, and obviously there's a litany of other ones if you've come across. So yeah,
Yeah,
just it's a good option. Ideally, they're buying Bitcoin and custodying it properly. And Coinbase is a huge custodian, so I have a little bit less risk on it actually getting like stolen or a smart contract hack or things like that. But those are still possible. But like you said, it's probably more kind of along the lines that some people think Tether is the CBDC already, right? They don't need to make one because they already have one. I don't know if
yeah.
that's true. And another reason why, at the end of the day, fiat is fiat, whether it's digital or, paper money. And we, overall generally believe Bitcoin will outperform that long term.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And but one thing I will say, because we're always about like, stacking your sats.
Yep,
Don't give your
exactly.
Bitcoin to them for cheap. So you have to imagine that this tap to pay will, eventually evolve into USDT and Ethereum and other tokens as well. So
Yeah.
you won't have to worry about that. You can use your other S coins, I guess you could say, to
Right.
spend and save your sats there.
Or there'll be some third party app that like maybe sells the Bitcoin to do the actual transaction with Apple Pay, but they accept all types of currencies.
Correct, correct. All right. I want to get into the top 10 Bitcoin holders because it's getting pretty interesting. I'm going to share my screen here
Okay.
and see if I can zoom in here a bit so the audience can see. But you can see right here, it says top 10 Bitcoin holders is getting interesting. Obviously, number one is Satoshi Nakamoto. But then you have 2 through 5, which is very, very interesting. Binance, we've known that they've had a ton of Bitcoin, but BlackRock has caught up to number 3 here.
Mm-hmm.
Grayscale's always been top because they've been doing this for a while. But then you
Yep.
have Fidelity at number 9, and then you have the
Mm-hmm.
U.S. government number 7 and Chinese government number 8. So let's talk about a year from now. Do you see the top 2 through 5 being all like traditional fund managers, or do you think Binance can stay up here and stuff like? How do you see this? Let's say a year from now.
Yeah, I mean, Binance has a pretty hefty lead. I see it. BlackRock has obviously been gaining on it.
Pretty
But
fast too.
yeah, but they are also going to have ties to Fractal Bitcoin, right? And if it does turn into like a BNB like chain where they last cycle made an EVM clone, and now this one, even though through proxy, not as well branded with Binance, but has its ties, I think that they're going to have focus on Bitcoin. So I think they're going to want to try and hold that position, or at least stay neck and neck. MicroStrategy, I think, will probably make a good run, but to double seems pretty, a stretch. But they definitely are taking in money and going to buy more Bitcoin. And obviously, Sailor's the focal point of a lot of laser eyes vision for Bitcoin. But yeah, the government, I think that's always a wishy-washy case because a lot of that is like repossessed from whatever activities they find it from too.
Wait, hold on.
So
They don't work hard for this Bitcoin that they
yeah,
acquire here?
right. No, they're yeah. Well, if anything, they're like creating a bond to go grab it, right? But I'm not 100% sure, but I think they usually have to take that to auction within some period of time. So yeah, I don't know exactly the rules on that, but I don't know if they're gonna make a position where they're gonna hold it in reserve and have it be an actual, federally mandated position. But maybe they do it as just like a pseudo position, right? Like, okay, we understand this, isn't the best way just to, sell it on the open market. So how about we just hold it and keep it as a reserve for a hedge against the dollar, as we know that has been printed a lot. I don't know if that'll sink in, but it could be somebody's position in the future.
Yeah. And they have been pretty strategic about when they do sell Bitcoin and stuff.
Hmm.
Obviously, I'm sure they need the funds for something. Who
Well,
knows
I
what
think
it
the
is?
biggest reason might just be because number eight's the Chinese government, right? The US and China have been in this, maybe not a soft war, but a very competitive competition. And
Mhm.
if, they're staying up there or growing, then the US government's going to notice that. And there's going to be that ping pong effect where, well, we can't let them outpace us. And now you have Mara the other day, you were saying, is stamping their Bitcoin made in USA. And Trump had some comments about, get your Bitcoin from the USA, and they want to have more mining broader in that market. So yeah, I think it could definitely maybe stay that position or grow. But a lot of those companies are already maybe proxies. They're having a lot of debt put through the Fed and things like that with these big companies, right? Like there are big banks are tied in with big banks that can get cheap rates. And if rates are going to go down, then they're probably going to borrow against things and could, pile it into Bitcoin if that what they want to continue to do.
Yeah, and I think, seeing this at the US at 7 and the Chinese government at 8 is a really bullish thing. The fact that they're like neck and neck,
Hmm.
because I agree. I think there's this kind of silent competition with everything, obviously the
Hmm.
global markets, but these are the top two powers in the world. Let's be real.
Yeah.
And what will happen is, first we'll see, how true the US government is about the future of Bitcoin and crypto. If they obviously sell a lot, right? And then they go down this list, or maybe they start acquiring in the future, right?
Yeah.
And so the biggest thing though is if these two governments, these nation states, move up a little bit, then the other nation states will want to join the party, and I think
Right.
that's the most important thing. So the fact that China and the U.S. are kind of silently competing against each other with the amount of Bitcoin they hold is a very
Mm.
bullish thing for the future.
Well, and like the other companies on there too, right? They're US and Chinese, Bitfinex and Binance versus the others. So yeah, it's just an overall competition, whether it be private or public.
Yep. Are you surprised that that Coinbase isn't on here?
I don't they hold a lot of those assets from Grayscale and BlackRock and MicroStrategy even in their custodian.
So they, yeah.
I'm not 100% sure about that, but I know that they're a big provider custodian. I just don't know exactly. I'm assuming Fidelity too, but yeah, I haven't looked into that specifically.
Yeah, I mean, yes, they are, right? So this BlackRock Bitcoin, I'm sure that Coinbase is
So they don't
custodying that.
technically own it, but they're creating fees and they're a service company. So I think maybe that's the position they've taken, is rather than being the actual holder of the Bitcoin, we're going to be the service company to provide security of the crypto assets.
But would you feel more comfortable if they were actual like owners as well, like
Hmm.
in this top 10, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously means they have plenty of in reserve, but also being a marketplace of exchange, right? They're not buying these just for specific ETFs. They need to have tokens of XYZ that are throughout their catalog list. So for them to be that Bitcoin centric is actually kind of a risk, right? A more diversified portfolio at the end of the day has a better risk to reward basis generally.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't forget the CB BTC whole new structuring of that could
Mhm.
pop them in the top 10 eventually, just
Yeah.
because they're going to have collateral for that. So,
Yeah, and I did see something on the timeline that somebody won a grant to on base to do things that are Bitcoin centric. So, even that may be a focus of like trying to provide value, like we've seen on Solana and other L2s like Merlin. We're going to see Fractal. Maybe Base Chain becomes, a place where Bitcoin activity happens for whatever reason, or it's, you know, a roll up onto Bitcoin using base chain as the back layer or things like that. We're going to, you know, see those kind of experiments probably.
For sure, for sure. All right, we're gonna touch on one more topic before we get into the roll call. I want to get the roll call a little bit earlier today because we've kind of gone a little bit longer than expected for our pre topics here. But this is something that kind of worries me personally, and this is personal opinion, guys. So don't take this as gospel. But George Soros is getting involved with the mining industry with, I guess, an acquisition of Terra Wolf, which is what a public company, right?
Yeah, it's actually Wolf, WULF. But yeah,
Okay.
TeraWolf's the full name. It's a NASDAQ stock mining company that's trying to be renewable centric and move around that. Also, one of the, I'm forgetting his name offhand and I don't have it pulled up, but I believe the guy from like Big Short also bought a position in that, or another one of those big like hedge fund style traders that people watch and monitor. Maybe they're just doing it because they like the chart, they like some of the fundamentals, whatever it may be. But like we talked about with the other ones and BlackRock and Fidelity and everybody else, you know, it's good to see more eyes are on it. People are taking notice of it. Who knows if it's a long-term play like MicroStrategy? Probably not to that level for any of them. They do tend to move. And like a comment I said earlier on, you know, even like Warren Buffett is getting more into a cash position, and that might just be like personal. It's not really crypto related, but people are going to want to be able to be cash ready to make bets throughout this bull market.
Yeah. And obviously George Soros is, I mean, he's been a great, amazing trader his whole entire career that
Right.
built him into the billionaire status. But you know, maybe he's just trying to play his cards, like you said, you know, get
Mhm.
into mining companies before Bitcoin gets past 6 figures or whatever.
Right.
But it's not something that excites me, but probably excites some other people just because, you know, billionaires are getting involved with the Bitcoin industry there. So
Yeah.
but all right, well, let's move on to the roll call, something we do every day. We want to shout out our community that shows up no matter what Bitcoin's at, if it's at $1,000 or 75,000. And we're gonna go with first is first, and that is Kai Effect that I'm seeing on the list here. So congratulations, Kai. You have made it. I did not forget you. I couldn't because you were first here. So congrats, my friend. And then we got our guy Tim Baker. He says, let's hope bull run soon. Yes, all of us are praying that we get there because we know we are. It's just when we are. And I was gonna ask you, do you think there's like a weird like problem with people that are in the space every day like us and the perception of the timeline? Is there like a problem with that right now? Because like I feel like I'm having issues with that.
Being too far in the weeds, yeah, for sure. And that summer was a good time to maybe check out and touch grass, the saying goes, or whatever it may be. But yeah, the people that are here every day that are doing many things, you know, especially with ordinals being a little cooler, runes, you know, had a nice little bump, but overall volume is still low. You know, we're looking for that next thing, and for some people, it's moving to another chain or airdrop hunting or futures, perpetuals, etc. And that's why it's good to be, you know, able to pivot from time to time, because there's always somewhere you can make a good trade or, you know, find some value doing research even. Right. So yeah, it is a tough thing when you're here every day. And that's the main thing you're focused on, with our bags generally pointing towards Bitcoin. But that's why it's good to have other things to do, even like creating content like this.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem, is that when you create content like this, I feel like you still get sucked into it because you're talking about it.
Right.
But I think you have a great point about being able to take the summer off. But obviously, we can't if we run a daily live stream.
Fair.
But if you can, what that can do is kind of take your, you know, laser focus out a little bit, and then you can put the template of the previous 4-year cycles on where you are, because I think that's where the problem is. We see bullish activity and we're like, oh, it's about to happen again, and we've had so many mini bull runs in ordinals and in the Bitcoin ecosystem that we're just waiting for the next one. So, but yeah, all right, let's go. Let's move on here. Mr. Hanky, the Christmas Poo, says LFG. Our guy Danny Boy D Blocks, what is going on, Danny Boy? He's one of our mods along with Tim Baker. We appreciate everything you do, Danny. He says, yo. And then we got our guy, Yashir. Man, Yashir helps out so much in the R&D department. Most of my topics today, I ain't gonna lie, came directly from this guy. We appreciate you. Lackey Lukey, what is going on? Dream Baked is in the house. We got Samawat Zahid. What is going on? Web Dro with the cute emojis here. I think I see like a ghost, a heart, a wolf. Those are really cool. Is that those must be YouTube emojis or something? PJNZ is in the house. He says heroes mint out. We're gonna go over that. I want to congratulate. I started the show off with that, but congratulations again to Superfan. We got no, which is no. He says GM to the OR community. Reziak in the house. We got Ordinals chips. Ordinals chips in the house. Ordinal tweet says love and peace. It's my opinion, and you can never go wrong with love and peace, my friend. Mr. Sheedy in the house is LFG. D Love, GM, and she's thirsty for some amazing gains. Yes, we all are. We got Chain Watcher in the house. Mauricio, Leo, SPI. SPI, you've been showing up almost every day, and I know I think you're a little bit newer, maybe. If I'm wrong, my apologies, but lately I have seen you have been consistent, so congrats to you. You are gonna make it. We have Chief AXL in the house. Ant-Man, Pelpa 333. We got Coach Katz with the coffee and donuts that he provides every morning. You guys need to be more like him. Bring coffee and donuts. We got Big Goofy Guy. You're not late. Don't worry. You're here just in time. Steamy J is in the house. I love that screen. It reminds me of, like, I don't know. It's weird. It's like, I don't know. I don't want to get into what I'm thinking with that. We got Jesus in the house. We have Sogol in the house. And we have Albert Amari. Albert Amari says, you guys stacking up on Moto? Price is going up quick. The price is going up quick. I got to ask you, man. What do you think about Moto? What do you think about OpNet? Not a long answer. Give me a short summary.
I haven't been buying.
Okay, there we go.
Good for the gains, take profits.
Yes. Green Man, always take profits. Green Man, 1714 in the house. We got our guy John. He says here. Patrick and man, we got a lot of people for roll call. You guys showed up today for sure. Patrick and then we have LSR in the house and Mike's World, and he says Yagobi shooting me all night in Foxy. I'm on the Ordinal team, dude. So I got to send you the link, J25, because I want you to jump into the Foxy beta. It was fun. I found a little spot. I crouched down and literally just picked people off the entire time. I
saw a couple of videos on the timeline. Yeah, it looks solid. People are having fun.
Yeah, for sure. And that is the roll call for the day, guys. Great job showing up. Y'all are going to make it. Let's get into the Bitcoin Fear and Greed real quick. So let's see if you can get today's. Let's see. Yesterday it was, and this is crypto fear and greed, by the way.
Yeah.
So yesterday was 30. What do you feel like it is today?
33.
See, this thing throws me off. Yeah. It's 29. But the good thing is it's not like jumping around crazy.
Yeah.
It's being definitely more consistent. So not too bad there. All right. Let's get into the Bitcoin price action, and then we're going to get into the ecosystem stuff. I promise you guys we will get into that. So we talked a little bit about the price action, kind of how you feel, today from yesterday. It has been, basically kind of rinse and repeat of the previous couple days. We're going to get into some patterns here on the hour chart. Let me share my screen. And by the way, the Bitcoin price action is brought to you by our partner from BitPerp, a premium perpetual DEX that's going to be launching on Botonics, which is a Bitcoin layer 2. They will have a paper trading competition here in the next couple of weeks. We will give you guys information once we get it. But what I'm seeing on the hour chart is there is a descending triangle here that played out and it popped up. And I mentioned to you in pre-show that, these descending triangles usually don't pop up. They're about 20 to 30% on average that the price action actually pops up. But if you can see here, there was another descending triangle that popped up and then chop. So what does that tell you? in terms of like these descending triangles actually producing positive price action, even if it's short term.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the whole, beginning of the show showed there's a lot of buying pressure. So right now, we're going between this range, but it seems like, whenever it gets to a certain point, people are looking to buy, maybe have their limit orders in. And I look more at like the fibs. So we were talking a little bit about that middle range where there's a bunch of green candles. If you were to take the fibs, it probably made about an 80% retracement and now has started like a rounded bottom, and maybe that's going to be the move to retest numbers higher in the 60s, possibly even the all-time highs if it gets to like the second range. But it's definitely, I think, just overall, we're seeing the headlines over and over again of the buying pressure, and eventually it's going to break one way or the other. We never know, but a lot of us like to assume upward with the amount of money it seems that's coming into the ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head yesterday with, hey, look, it's gonna probably be choppy between, maybe 58,000 to 62, kind of that
Mhm.
range. And I've had this, I guess, wish that September could be the month, because like all the builders keep pushing back a month. If you
Yeah,
look back in June, they're like, we're waiting for August. We
yeah,
get closer to August, we're waiting for September. That's the month.
yeah,
And eventually they're going to get that right, right?
yeah. A lot of things are supposed to be launched in September that we've talked about too. But and generally in markets, you see a lot of chop during uncertainty. And it just so happens every halving, we have a presidential election shortly after. I don't think it really matters who wins at the end of the day for Bitcoin specifically or crypto in general. I think that cat is already out of, or the rabbit's already out of that hat. You know what I mean? Cat out of the bag, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
So I think overall, like I've said, long term, I'm obviously bullish. I'm generally trying to get longs just because I feel like if you get into a short position at any time, it could reverse on you very easily. But you could be a good scalper and be able to make that happen from time to time. But just, yeah, overall, I'm generally buying like spot and then maybe a little bit of leverage. And overall, I just think that the pressure will eventually squeeze it on up.
Yeah. Well, what I'm seeing for the rest of today is possibly a little bit of a bounce back. I mean, there could be, if the
Mhm.
stochastic RSI starts to point down here a
Yep.
little bit, we could see some bearish divergence,
Yeah, I
but
did
I don't
notice that
see that.
overbought. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see that too much yet. It's kind of just even, but we'll
Mhm.
see what happens. The MACD does show, buy pressure is continuing here, so we
Right.
could see a bounce back to 60,000. We'll see. If I were to put a little bit of money on it, I would say maybe 60,000, low 60,000 for the second half of the day. So that's what I'm seeing on the 1 hour chart. Let's see what the 8 hour chart is showing here. It is showing kind of what we saw yesterday. Right. Yesterday, the 8 hour chart was showing that the buy pressure was dying down a little bit, still
Mhm.
is dying down a little bit. We haven't gone into the red candles with the
Mhm.
MACD yet. So it's just chop here. But,
Yeah,
if that 1 hour chart does bounce up pretty strong and there's like some news or something, that could change the trajectory of the 8 hour chart. And we could see a strong green candle form here. We got to see how the rest of today plays out and if any news comes in, though.
for
So,
sure.
that's what I'm seeing. I agree with you though. For Bitcoin, the rest of maybe the next week and a half, 2 weeks, probably chop honestly, between 57 to 62. But again, this market has been extremely volatile, and anything can happen.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
all right, let's get into the ecosystem news. This was big news yesterday. So Satflow raised $7.6 million in seed round, and Coinbase Ventures was an investor. What is
Mhm.
Satflow? Do you know what
Yeah.
Satflow is?
I'm not really aware of exactly what it is. I found it yesterday. So, it's a headline, a team that wants to work on something. They just got a seed round. So I doubt that they have a very well flushed out product. I peeked at their page, but I was looking at various things throughout the morning. So don't really know exactly, other than they want to build Bitcoin type DApp of some sort on base. So whether that's a DEX,
Ooh,
maybe perps, who knows? But yeah, that's obviously a good thing, right? With Coinbase investing in it, focus on Bitcoin. We've talked about Fractal and Binance's ties and other builders out there. A lot of people just looking at Bitcoin or how to have on roads or on ramps to Bitcoin.
yeah. And so I do think they have probably a pretty good product, but they're definitely not going to let us know about it yet.
Mhm.
Because if you look at it here, it says probably basically what you repeated, what you said earlier. It says we're developing privately now, but early access details will be coming soon. Keep up with the latest by following StatFlow, turning on notifications. But if you scroll down here, it says Bitcoin dexes neglect pro traders who need advanced order types, high-speed data, and liquidity pools. Web 2 models hinder progress with conflicting interests. Our mission is to solve these issues, elevate Bitcoin L1 to institutional quality, and enhance decentralization. So we know with Bitcoin's limitations currently, what they're saying is impossible, in terms of like the L1 type of thing. So they either one, know something's coming that we don't know, which could be the case, or two, there's a new technology which would kind of follow under number one too, that they have developed, and there's some way to kind of finalize on Bitcoin's main layer. But I do agree with you. I think that, if Coinbase is involved, they could have something to do with that CBBTC.
It could even be the CBBTC, right? Maybe they're considering that Bitcoin, right? And they're putting in the marketing around, like, this is what we consider Bitcoin. It's on base chain, but it's still are backed by Coinbase, so pseudoli or officially Bitcoin.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we've seen this is kind of like where marketing and push and branding like come into play, because I mean, we've seen if they are basically going to bridge assets to base, then we've already seen that with Merlin, right? I mean, they're essentially
or
the
Ethereum or Solana.
They're
other
essentially the same technology. Obviously, ZK type technology with Merlin, but they're gonna be on a EVM style chain with smart contracts and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, Coinbase can make that push stronger just because of their brand, and they can make people just come on board. So if that's the case, I think they won't have a ton of our space won't get super excited. I think we'll get excited because of the branding, but more than anything, I think this will be an onboarding of EVM people, which could be big.
Or even people on Coinbase, right? They're on a centralized exchange. Maybe that's one of their first times using a Web3 wallet or using a DEX or things like that. So I think there's always like looking on the farther side to see how can we get people to just make a little move, a little step forward on that spectrum.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So, keep your eye on this project because they have some big backing. And another point I'll say is, obviously, Coinbase is interested in our ecosystem. That's obvious at this point, right? So if they're interested and they're friendly with builders, I think that can probably make some people speculate that there'll be some Bitcoin layer 1 assets that will be listed on Coinbase. I mean, that's obviously a big speculation, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the trend is generally it goes through like Binance and obviously the other DEXs and sexes that are a little bit smaller, but like Mexi is kind of considered a tier 1. A few others are on that list, but generally it's like Binance, OKX, and then Coinbase comes a bit later, just because of regulation being in the States. Maybe they just want to be a little more risk off with these certain assets, but they still have a pretty long list of tokens that they have the option for people to buy within their exchange. So yeah, I think just in general, most people know what Bitcoin is, and maybe if they make some profits, they get on base chain, they had this CBBTC, and then they start learning about, oh, well, I can get even more secure with having layer 1, private custody Bitcoin. And there's always a few steps along that road from moving from Coinbase to holding your own seed phrase and self-custody.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys, put your questions and comments in the chat. We will get to those in the Ordinal after hour. Here we're going to run through a couple of these. So we still have yet, in my opinion, to have a Bitcoin layer 1 fungible token that has gone fully mainstream yet. Like it hasn't reached the Doge, it hasn't reached the Sheeb, and people can say, well, those are shit coins,
multi-billions type.
Exactly. We're talking about like top like 15 market caps right now. Right. So it doesn't matter if you think they're joke coins or not. There's liquidity that's backing those, right?
No.
So my question is, will Sats be the first mainstream big winner? And I know that that's not really thrown into the hat as much. I mean, it's top 3 thrown in the hat, but people are always thinking, will it be Dog or Ordi? But Sats really, in my opinion, and our buddy Block's opinion, has the setup for it. You can see here,
Fair.
Block posted at Chain Racing Club, by the way. Go follow this guy. He knows a little something about a little something. He says, scenario, Fractal launches, BRC pump fund style trading ships. All these tokens are routed through the Fractal swap. All token trading requires BRC20 sats as the fee. Mass spot buying of sats begins. As market expands, sats become the first asset to hit $10 billion market cap. Do you think he has a good argument there?
Yeah, I think, right now there's a lot of sentiment that, all tokens in crypto have to be memes. It's a meme cycle, but we know that cycles tend to burn out, and there's maybe even signs of that happening from time to time. A lot of pump fund tokens may make it to Radium, but aren't doing much after. And a lot of the bigger boys have kind of, moved into a period where they're going through a range. I think that there will be a move towards more utility tokens, maybe not in a widespread basis, but a lot of the early adopters and speculators have been talking about this, and maybe we're all wrong. But if Fractal is successful, then in theory, there'll be total value locked on Fractal, which would be through the swap system. And Sats is the gas fee, the oil structure of that swap mechanism. So yeah, it really is dependent on a lot of ifs, definitely. But the price has been speculated on. Over the last month or so, Sats has done like a 3x, I think, from its bottom. And then there's a lot of speculation on Fractal Bitcoin coming to the surface, which only makes that continue to, theorize that maybe there's more speculation, especially if Fractal Bitcoin works well and liquidity and the market decides to use it.
Yeah. So if this happens, $10 billion market cap, right now we're looking at a $600 million market cap. Does the risk outweigh the reward here? Because yeah, it could, get there, but you're looking at, what is that? Maybe
15x, maybe
around
on the
there.
high end. Yeah. Call it 10x. Just go like a little bit more bearish case or something.
Yeah. Do you think that the risk of Sats not getting there outweighs the reward, or vice versa? The reward outweighs the risk, because it is kind of it's a safer play in our space, I feel like.
Right. I'd say that it's probably on the safer side that it 2 to 5x's even through a hype cycle. And then you really have to be paying attention, is Fractal working well? There could obviously be a dump if it's not, or there's problems, etc. If there's not enough liquidity, not enough volume. As I said, there's a lot of ifs, right? But this has been Unisat working on this for a while. We don't even know how long. This might have been something they wanted to launch last fall or winter, and it was pushed back because of the L1 swap and the conversations that were had between Layer 1 and Domo and the other players in the space. So I've been holding mine still. I didn't take profits at the all-time high last time because I still want to see it come to fruition that we can have L1 activity. And then if it doesn't happen, so be it. Then there'll be, will Runes be able to do it? Are we going to have to always use some kind of L2 or side chain, whether it's Bitcoin related or EVM related? But I think that this is the next narrative that has to play out. And I feel confident that it's going to work at least to some extent. And then it just depends on, will the market be willing to participate in it?
Yeah. Well, I think they, they're kind of like that Sats flow, except for a large, bigger entity in terms of backing, because Coinbase backed Sats flow, Binance backed Unisat. So it's kind of like they have to put something out there, right?
Right.
I mean,
at least Unisat has been a player, been around, done many things.
True.
And, they've spent a bunch of money on Sats. They've spent a bunch of money on dropping pizza, which is going to have some play within Fractal Bitcoin. So they've been, the point I like to make out is they've been investing in the ecosystem. Obviously there's benefits for them. They want to build out more products and earn fees and do other things. They're a company, they have that right for themselves and their investors, but they're adding to the ecosystem, trying to add value. And then projects like Uni Worlds and other things that they're going to do. So I like to look at that. Whereas, with Runes, it's a lot of meme projects. And at the end of the day, RuneCoin may have something in the wings, but it's not out yet, right? Whereas Fractal Bitcoin is on testnet, imminent, and now we need to see, does the market vibe with it? I really think it comes down to user experience at the end of the day. if you could have it where it's one click swaps, almost like your OKX wallet or other swaps you do maybe in Phantom or other things like that, where it shows you the path, like, okay, I'm going to take this USDT and then move it from Solana to Ethereum, and it goes to Ethereum and, shows the path that it makes, but it's just one click, like you're bridging. That would be huge because it's just the user experience. So I want to swap X to Z, maybe sats to Bitcoin or whatever, and it goes to the fractal layer, but it's just one click for the user.
Yeah. One click, but you have to wait for the transaction times.
Yeah.
Or one click and then you can do whatever you want, and then Fractal just will catch up.
Right. I don't know exactly
the
mechanism, and I don't think that they'll do that day one. I think you'll have to, use their pegging system or use Fractal Bitcoin to swap for this or that. Like I said, there's a lot of ifs, but if they can make it where the user experience is as minimal as possible, because as we've seen with BRC20s and runes, the biggest thing is that you have to either wait for splitting, wait for a transfer inscription, and obviously generally wait on the blocks. So they're trying to make an experience with 30-second blocks and faster times. So if they can just have that, be, obviously there could be slippage, right? And maybe you put a 20% slippage or a 10% slippage like you do on other ones. And if that block, it clears, it could have like an RBF feature where if the prices change too much, then you just get your money back minus the fees in the chain. Obviously, this is a bit more complicated, but they're going for a bit more complication with adding layers to Bitcoin. So maybe they do something like that.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting 6 months ahead of us, I feel like, because we're going to see, which ecosystems kind of rise to the top, right? Because you have the builders from runes. I mean, it's inevitable. I mean, it's undeniable at this point. You got people building at least their projects and associating a runes token to it. And then you have this entity that is really building infrastructure faster than the other side, even though the other side has individual builders. So who knows how this is going to play out? We'll see, but the next 6 months is definitely going to be exciting.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we want to congratulate Superfan for the Bitcoin Heroes mint out. If you go to mscribe, you can see, I believe it's minted out. It says total mint progress, 75%. But when I was logged into a wallet, I tried to mint and wouldn't let me. So I think these are spoken for. And they're just in the
mempool or something.
Yeah, exactly. But Superfan is, and this stuff like this makes me, and I think Shizzy and possibly yourself too, just because there's smaller community builders that have a really good skill set, and to see them have the project mint out and to be able to give them some shine, some time to really shine on our show has been awesome. And so you could see, he has been working on this for a while. It's a generative DMT project to where your character actually has a life and like a lifeline or a timeline for their life and how they can evolve and stuff. And you can see here, if you check these out, I won't turn it on right now because the volume will sound weird, but you can just go listen to it. They have voiceovers and it's really cool. So I don't know how that will work. Maybe he's intertwining the voice of the character into AI as well to continue that on for them to have the sound of the voice into what the script is going to read in the future. But man, if it turns out to be
overall,
if it turns out to be the way, he's described it, man, this could be huge. And it could be kind of a breakthrough because he didn't use DMT initially. This was something he was building in the back end. And once DMT kind of came out, he was like, this makes perfect sense, right? And so a lot of times we get ahead of ourselves with metaverse and all these things. But I think it's about time that some of that stuff gets caught up, right? Because we've been talking about metaverse and crypto for years now. And, this is going to be interesting. For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, the
What do you think
convergence
about
of
something like
AI,
this?
the convergence of AI and metaverse just makes so much sense, right? Because it can be prompted and make it much more simple. I know that like Uniworlds has talked about having like an AI prompting for theirs. So yeah, it's definitely cool to see somebody mint out and do an interesting project with their own flavor. And yeah, AI is going to continue to be, something experimented with, and hopefully it continues to grow.
Definitely. And like I said, he's been working on this for a while. He was actually, I think that he started off on the Lambda protocol,
Mm.
and Shizzy and I were judges for one of their competitions for builders, and he won. And so
Nice.
it's really, really cool to see how his project has evolved. So shout out to you, super fan. Keep doing what you're doing. I can't wait to the episodes and lore. And if this turns into some sort of game, I'm
Mhm.
definitely going to
Or
be
even
one of the first
comic
to
book,
play it.
yeah, graphic novel, but like digital style.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept a lot of different ways.
Exactly, and you don't necessarily know how it's gonna play out because it's gonna be based on the next block, which is awesome, I love that.
Right, right. It has scenarios and then yeah, kind of like an RNG. That's cool.
Exactly, exactly. Alright, we're gonna get into Bitcoin OS a little bit because we have limited information here, but,
Mhm.
you and I did as much research as we could. What did you find out about Bitcoin OS?
Yeah, so I read their white paper. It's definitely a bit over my head. I am not a mathematician that understands, snarks and things. I've heard these terms before, but I'm fully willing to admit that the concept is a bit over my head. So that, is always kind of a hindrance. But my understanding of what I read through is it's an improvement on the old BitVM model that was kind of talked about last summer. And there was some hesitancy with the bridging, but it seems like it's a framework for guardrails of a pegging bridge system and possibly more. Bridge to where, what kind of partners, things like that. I don't know. It just seems much more like a research or a theoretical type thing. And it even addresses some of the comments that Rajan Dell and the writing partner, I don't remember his name right now, I apologize, but they had against the BitVM bridge with some different attack, vectors that were possible, and they mention it a little bit, give a little bit of a rebuttal, but I don't think it's fully flushed out. And there's with the diagrams that you see in there, they are good visuals and things like that, but you're like requesting UTXOs from the bridge wallet at the end of the day, right? So it's a bridge multi-sig wallet and things like that. Maybe there's aspirations for programmability to make that happen, but at the end of the day, then you're giving up some element of trust. So yeah, I don't have the expertise to like dive into the math and does this make sense. I just feel like this like theory has been kind of speculated a lot, and maybe they do have a breakthrough here and can start testing it. But I would like to see people using it on testnet, somebody like Rajan Dell, who's a high-end engineer in Bitcoin, really dive into it and give his comments.
Yeah. And so that other developer that you were talking about, his name is Eden Yago, and that's
Okay.
where I was confused yesterday. It does sound like my name, Yago. I mean, it's
Yeah,
the
right.
first half of it actually.
Yeah, yeah.
But I've heard him speak on a couple different spaces. I think he is a UTXO dev, a Bitcoin dev, but
Mhm.
they write on their X account, imagine Bitcoin with ultimate privacy, lightning fast transactions, and advanced smart contracts.
Right.
Zero knowledge cryptography makes it possible. We're pushing Bitcoin to new heights, and we're taking you along with us. So, this is Bitcoin OS didn't just pop out of nowhere yesterday. This has been in the works for a minute.
Mhm. And it's a
So
different interpretation of BitVM, which was developed by a few other people, Super Testnet and Lannis, I think, or Linus. Yeah,
Robin
yeah,
Linus, yeah.
yep.
And but there's like all these groups. There's multiple different groups of people that are trying to solve this problem.
Mhm,
And so to me, this is another kind of a hidden bullish divergence indicator. I would
mhm.
say is that like you have the tourists, right, that have come, like you, I, Shizzy, Block, all the people that are listening for the most part have been here. We're residents now, right?
Yeah,
But there's been tourists that have come from Solana because the hype train, and they feel
right.
the energy and then they leave.
Ruins around the
Oh, it's
halving or whatever it may be.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly right. And they're like, Bitcoin's not that's overhyped. Of Bitcoin being a narrative that's going to carry this next bull market. It's overhyped.
yeah,
But for people like us that see this and see Cat VM, and when we went to the Bitcoin conference, you saw about freaking 30 different L2 solutions in the conference.
yeah.
This is going to be the narrative
Right.
for this next bull run. And the one thing I'll say is that sometimes they're trying to push their approach with in the Bitcoin's limitations on layer one a little too hard, because I mean, zero knowledge is great. Everybody loves the concept of it, but people aren't thinking about the provers and the challenges that you can challenge provers, and that can take up to like a week or longer in some
Right.
cases, right?
Whatever
They've
the
gotten it down.
program specifies. Yeah.
Exactly. And originally, like on Lightning or whenever they first proposed it, I think it was up to like 30 days or something crazy, maybe 6 months. Actually, I remember
Yeah.
hearing that. And they've gotten it down to where I think it's like 7 days. So it's getting better. But at the end of the day, like, you don't want funds stuck for 7 days in something,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, definitely not. Yeah. Like that's when I see stuff that's like stake for 30 days, 90 days, 180 days. I'm usually like, okay, I'm going to hold this and watch for an exit generally. I want to have, staking that's able to come out easily. Even like Solana staking, when you go into the validator, I think takes like less than a day. So, under that day period is pretty reasonable. You shouldn't be trying to make, instantaneous move with your staking. That should be more of an intermediate play. So, if you see something on the horizon, like, oh, this might be my exit or my first exit point, get your 25%, 50%, whatever number you're trying to move along with, and have the plan that you made at whatever time before you made the trade, and then execute it. Many people though just kind of want to smash buttons. So, and I've been there too. I've done the photon and other trading and things like that, but I've just found that I do better when I have like a plan in place, go with it in confidence, and if I'm wrong, my stop loss stops me at a minimal loss, and then I reassess.
Yep. All right, we got one more topic, guys, and then we'll get into the Q&A part of the show. So make sure you're putting all your questions in the chat, guys. We don't have J25 on every day, so take advantage of that giga brain that he has and ask those questions there. But let's see here. I want to hit on this before we get into that. And
Cool.
The Bitcoin ecosystem has a new trading tool. It's called XBTC Bot AI, and these are tools that we're going to need. There are a couple other tools that are in the making right now. Ordinal Hive is building some tools and some other tools. But could you go into this tool specifically, because it sounds interesting how they're integrating AI?
Yeah, so shout out to the Nookie, Sam Sage from the intro.
The Nookies!
Nookie. Yeah, I believe many of them met Richard, who's the main dev behind this project. Excuse me. And he wants to do, a mempool sniping bot, which I believe like Magic Eden has a portion of. I saw a few other places that have added those tabs and things like that. There were other ones that were behind collections. But the most interesting thing that he's doing is he wants to make as many tools, like we've talked about with other dApps and people building, for traders and regular traders, having limit order tools, rarity sniping tools. And he actually reached out to like After Hours and Stripes and a few of the other regular traders. I was supposed to meet with them, but unfortunately we've had some sick kids on and off, so the schedule's been a little frantic. But yeah, we are definitely going to be having, when activity returns, more mempool sniping. I think we even saw it a little bit. I saw somebody on the timeline that I follow, his runes bag that he's trying to buy when he found a good position to grab got sniped because a 40-minute block came along. So maybe even not when, ordinals are crazy, it's a good idea to at least monitor these types of tools wherever you like to go. Because the blocks can take an hour, right? And if you have an hour-long block, it's not going to be a 3-sat per V-byte block, even at these low ranges, because orders get piled up. People see things changing on the marketplace and want to jump into the mempool and make something happen. So yeah, I think it's just going to be another tool for the more advanced traders. And Richard, the dev behind this, seems very open to just extending those tools and experimenting with them. So, probably not anything for like the novices and things like that. There's simpler tools. Maybe use Magic Eden. It's a one-stop shop. Maybe use Magipool if that's what you're comfortable with, or wherever you want to go. But I do really like that he's, asking specifics of what kind of tools would be good for you to have somebody that generally trades perpetuals and does limit orders and likes to take profits or snipe specific traits, and take all of that input and say, how can we build tools around that?
Yeah. So are these are tools for layer one fungible, like, okay.
Yep.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
runes, ordinals, BRC20s. Yeah. So so Magisat, but with like more tools around it. Or your
Gotcha.
general like mempool sniping, but you could set it where if there's a spike in volume, or, there's going to be multiple indicators, and you can set up these more advanced trading tools that you generally see like on a DEX or a SEX with like a perpetuals or things like that.
Yeah. And I think actually these kind of trading tools are good for the style that we trade over here, which is
Mhm.
slow, right?
Yeah.
It's slow
Well, we know
because
people have bots, right? Like mints get botted, other things get botted, right? So, it's just evening the playing field. Whereas mempool sniping, you needed to know how to use like Sparrow or your Bitcoin Core or be almost dev level. And now just more and more tools are coming out that allow you to, use things just like inscribing from your wallet or mobile apps, right? Everybody's just pushing it forward to have more and more, ease of use.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So, guys, make sure that you're checking out XBTC Bot. I don't think they're launched yet, but
Hmm.
they're getting everything together. It's at XBTC Bot underscore AI. So go check them out, follow them, and stay up to date with once they do launch their tools. And tools are needed in our space, especially if you're, a higher volume trader and stuff like that. So
Yep.
awesome. All right, let's get into the Q&A part of the show, guys. Not a ton of questions in here, so keep putting your questions in there. But we will start off with the first one, which is kind of a tough question to answer. But SPI says, "Yo, price prediction for Heroes." Well, it just minted, and
Hmm.
I'm not too sure here. Let's see, 3,014 circulating supply, and it's 75% held. So, the total is 4,032. I mean, this is a really really hard question to answer. I mean, how do you go off of a possible price prediction before anything hits secondary?
Yeah. I mean, generally, if it's a hype collection, there's buying, and you'll see that on Magic Eden where, a ton of them are spinning. But then usually, it calms down and there's an accumulation period. And then it really just comes down to the community, what they're building, and does it align with, what's going on with the narrative of their project and the overall ecosystem. So for someone that looks like they want to build, more, whether it be into a game or graphic novel or other adventures with those AI characters, who knows what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis, but at the end of the day, it really just comes down to the team executing what the community really sees as the vision and working in that like conjunction. So I wouldn't give like any specific price on any collection really out there. At the end of the day, you just kind of have to make your bet and run with it, and then it comes down to all those things I just discussed.
100%. I think that was perfectly said, because even when Node Monks had the Dutch auction, and there was a lot of
Hmm.
people, including myself, that was very hesitant, and probably, obviously, that wasn't the right decision. But hindsight's 2020.
Always.
Once it did mint out, I had this instant like gut feeling that I had to pick up a couple like close to what the mint price was,
Hmm.
and that was because of things that you said, the layers of value, the community, the hype,
Hmm.
the team, stuff like that, and it ended up paying off. So I think SPI, you got to use some of your experience that you've had in the space, to kind of give you some indicators of, yes, this is a good time to purchase these. No, I'm not as bullish because of these reasons, right? At the end of the day, you have to make your own decision on that.
Hmm.
And this goes into the research that you got to do. Because I mean, like, I'm bullish on Heroes, but I'm a bit biased.
Hmm.
Super fan is a community member. I think it's amazing the work that he's done.
Yeah.
But I also think that the education has been kind of limited to our show and Block Runners, which are the two like larger podcasts. So I guess that is good platforms to be on,
Right.
but it's more of like the DMT community is really zoned in on this. So
For sure.
what I could see happening is starting off low on secondary, and then once the project details come out a little bit more, it can pop, if it
Or some
impresses
delivery.
further.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's always a good, rule of thumb or whatever you want to say, that, you get a couple of them, maybe 2, 3, whatever your budget, says you can do, and trade a few out so that way you can free roll 1 or 2, right? And then
Yeah.
you've taken the risk out, gotten your niche back, and then you can be happy with, hey, I got a cool character, and maybe you end up building around it in some aspect if you have, creative aspects, or the project then is able to build into more and you get to utilize it.
Yeah. 100%. All right, next question is kind of controversial, but I'm going to read it because we don't have a ton of questions here. So Albert, says, John, why is Moto a scam? I know he's asking John, but so we're not going to claim that it's a scam because that's just not. I don't think that's something fair to do at this point, unless more information comes out. But John has his reasoning for that, and I think that like some people are a little standoffish just because the original team did branch off from Oshi. Now I will say they did warn people about the Oshi team. So do your own research on this. It's not hard to do research, Albert, on this specific topic. So I would go into Twitter, do some searches on Moto. I will say this. You got people that I respect in the space that are bullish on OpNet. You know what I mean? Like Bob Bodley, we met him in person as well in Nashville, and we've had him on the show, I think twice. And and then you also have people like what's his name? Block Hash, Hash Rate, the host of Hash Rate, Mark Jeffries, and we respect that guy a ton too, and they're both bullish on OpNet, which is the project that this team is behind. But I will say, do extra research. Me personally, I'm not in this, and I'm gonna observe from a distance. And does that mean that I will never be in it? No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is I'm watching from a distance, and I'm going to let them build out what they say they're going to build out on Fractal.
Yeah, for sure. There's a difference between like OpNet, which is a protocol level play, and Moto, which is a token, right? There's maybe a trade to be made there. Maybe it already passed. Maybe there's another one. But I'm not a huge fan of CBRC20s, and that's the protocol that it's on. Maybe it changes in the future. Who knows? They could do a Rune, a BRC20, or whatever they choose. I do find it interesting that OpNet is on testnet now on Fractal. So I saw that they, posted about that. And that'll be a place for people to play with it and learn more about it. And then once LiveNet goes, it'll really determine are people using it. I know Fractal Bitcoin's supposed to have some of its own capabilities. So obviously Unisat and everybody with Fractal is going to try and focus towards their swap and their things. So just let the market decide and see where it goes. But yeah, I've just not been a fan of that. But I've bought tokens that haven't done well in the past, and I've missed out on others that have done well. So do your own research and make your own bet.
Yeah, and if we're being honest, there is some people that made a ton of money on Oshi because they got out at the right time, right? At that time, there was no building happening on anything like fungible, so it's really just kind of a zero-sum game at that point.
It was very early days of speculation on a lot of things.
Exactly. So Albert also says, I love tap and track. Sats will be more valuable than BTC itself. I'm going to have to big disagree with you on that last part. I do like tap and track, but sats will not be more valuable than BTC itself.
No, it could be 1-to-1, right? Sats equal 1 sat. Yeah.
But well, if you're talking about like total, well, I guess then wouldn't it would just be even then, right?
Right. Yeah. If fractal Bitcoin becomes, the computational level, thing, then it's a lot to play out, obviously.
That would be,
that's the old meme of last summer.
Yeah.
And so
once that equals,
it would be interesting, right?
I used to say that a lot.
Yeah.
But I think people were just excited about sats, obviously. But if they were able to accomplish that, man, what a huge feat, right? For that.
Yeah. Right. That would be like if, BNB isn't the same as Ethereum, but it's grown in, comparison, right? It's had a better run just when compared to ETH, but that's because it came from nothing and now, is where it is. So if fractal Bitcoin can have a similar run, I think it's probably unrealistic to think 1 sat equals 1 sat, but maybe someday it could. And even if it was 10%, 15%, like that would be amazing. Because we know Bitcoin has a lot of total value locked and a big market cap.
Yep, I agree. All right, to the next question from Trait. He's asking Dog Rune's price prediction. I'm curious of what you think. Let's say the peak top for Dog this cycle. What are you thinking in terms of market cap?
Easily the moon, right? It's in the name. But I think reasonably you could think like a 2x from its high, which is, let's call it $1 billion, even though it was maybe a bit shy, 950 million or whatever. It was interesting when we saw, yesterday and the day before, a bit of runes activity, and dog stayed pretty flat, but they were also doing a little bit more activity before that. And it's still the volume leader, the most well-known rune out there. So, when runes does see a major push, and even this last couple of days, right at the end of the day, it wasn't a ton of volume. It was just a lot of thin floors getting scooped up by people, calling the bottom or saying this is where they wanted to get in. So we just need to see a longer trend and more volume just come back to the ordinals runes, even BRC20 ecosystem. Sats and Ordi are on dexes and sexes, so they get a lot of volume from there, a lot more than the on-chain activity at the end of the day too.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna probably be a little bit ridiculous here on my prediction. I'm gonna say it gets to between $2 and $2.5 billion market cap.
Okay, I mean
And
that's basically what I said, right?
is that what you
2x
said?
plus.
Okay,
I said
sorry.
2x from the top. No, that's all good. Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
roughly the same area.
yeah, and I think people forget that the top of Ordi's first run up was around what, 500 million, I believe, around
Yeah.
there.
Okay. I'm
Yeah,
not.
and
I'm not
so
really sure on market cap. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but from what I remember, it was about 500 million. Now, it's unfair to kind of compare those two because Runes had the marketing machine of Leonidas and these
Hmm.
influencers that were really trying to push Runes, and more specifically trying to push Dog.
Right.
So it getting to $980 million, which is so sucks because it's like 20 million below a billion, right?
Hmm.
But so the next run up makes me think that it's gonna easily cross 1 billion, probably lead towards 2 billion. And if it's not, even if it's not the the big leg up, even if it's just another leg up in our space, I think it crosses 1 billion, 1.3, 1.4, and that big leg up, I believe, will take it past 2 billion. So, but we'll see, right?
Hmm. Yeah, and it
Um,
could be, fractal Bitcoin and Sats doing well, rises all boats, right? If liquidity
true.
is coming to Bitcoin through, even an adjacent side chain or whatever, there will probably be trading for runes eventually. Maybe not right off the bat because Unisat is going to focus on their baby BRC20s, but I think that liquidity will open up to other areas as well.
100%. All right, next question from or Abu, or I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm horrible with pronouncing words. Or names. It says he's asking. He says, "I think Uniworlds could be huge. Do you guys think purchasing DeFi.Uniworlds for 3 Bitcoin is a good deal to flip later?"
No, you should have inscribed
Yeah,
it.
yeah. That's just a really tough. Like, man, there's not many things that in our space that you would buy for 3 Bitcoin right now.
Yeah.
Just a one-off thing.
Maybe a fully revenue generating business of some sort, with a proven model, right? But even though I own some keys, I inscribe some. That's why we try to get into things as cheap as possible, because will it be bitmaps, will it be Uniworlds, where it's had its run and we'll see what happens with all of them, but it could easily be quad keys or Ordi maps or the various other
Come on.
namespace. Yeah, the other dots that have been out there. I mean, even I've seen of late, and I'm not really sure, and I haven't really dove on it. Maybe I will a little bit more. But .btc names has had regular inscribing for about over a month, and even been like the major box if you look at Genie data at times.
Interesting.
So yeah, there's some speculation. Maybe this has a tie-in with Uniworlds or something Unisat's doing. Maybe some future thing. If you have like a bitmap and a .btc name, you can do something in XYZ. I have no clue. I've heard a lot of different stories, but I've just noticed, anomalies in minting or inscribing on chain is generally something to look at, like we saw with Sats last summer, or obviously bitmaps and other things like that. So even if you did some Uniworlds Genesis, you got the keys, and if you chose to sell, those have been doing well. Or if you choose to hold, it might have ties into fractal Bitcoin and other things like that. So, and obviously the game that they want to bring forward as well. So I don't really always count on the game working or being perfect, but I also know that there will be a hype cycle leading up to it. So maybe I take some profits, keep a few that I want to keep, and then move on. But I did purchase some Worlds keys that I wasn't airdropped when they were kind of low about a month ago, when I think you guys and Francis and a few others had mentioned them too.
Yeah. I think Uniworlds has a big opportunity, because it seems like Unisat has kind of welcomed them with open arms with this partnership. And when I was laughing at Jay saying a fully running business, because that is kind of a true statement. That's something that you want to let go of 3 Bitcoin for. I think if there was a single asset, it might be those like crazy like epic or rare sats. That's the only thing, maybe, right? Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
And yeah, like the epic sat was like $1 million, I think, on the
Mhm.
halving block though, right? So
Yeah,
because
but
that's
it was a
what they
team that had
are.
a plan and knew what they wanted to do with it, right? So they saw what their expected value add was for it, and they essentially wanted to fractionalize an epic sat through a rune, and we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, for me personally, I did some sat panning in the last summer, but again, I try to do it at low fee rates, and when fees got higher, I stopped. So I have that bag of random things that I found, but I did try to do it at a very low cost basis. I really haven't been trading or speculating in that area.
Yeah. All right. He has another question here. It says, in a crazy bull run, it could cross 50 cents easy. Oh, I think he's talking about another thing. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Um,
Glad they're having combos in the chat.
J25. When this is from Patapoo, our guy, Patapoo, the Bitcoin machine here. He says, J25, when are you expecting to receive your BitBoy?
I've seen him, messaging more on the timeline about it, but it's been Q4, so by end of year is my expectation. Hopefully by Christmas time, maybe wrap it up, and the one I open, little man can play with. I have 2 so far. I've been watching the price and might get on another because I didn't really feel like flipping it, even though I thought it was a pretty good flip early on. Obviously, the hype around it, and then the long runway. I just didn't want to get tricked out of my position. Shout out to 1 and 2. Because it could have ran, right? Maybe it was the next hype thing. And I think it still will have ties in with fractal Bitcoin and other things. So I'm just glad I have my 2 locked in. And if anything, maybe I add a third or fourth on this, lower time frame price that I think will change as it gets closer to delivery.
Yeah. So, Abu asked, can the BitBoy do anything, or do you need an actual device? So, this is my thing with BitBoy and Ord's games. I think they're good, quick builders to an extent, but then they kind of just have a lot of like almost spam stuff that they've built in the past, right?
Fair.
No offense to those guys.
Right.
Look, it is. I try to call it how it is, and that's how I see it.
Yeah.
Do I think they're talented? Yes. Have you actually played the hardware device?
I haven't, but I know people that have, and they've found it interesting, right? It is 8-bit, it's simple, but it's that nostalgia feel of playing, your Pac-Man, your Tetris, things like that. I'm doing it more for the airdrop play, holding the actual ordinal with the BitBoy, because you can actually pre-order. I think the open purchasing is open for the hardware device. But I have the Genesis Ordinal, which is going to allow me to get airdrops and obviously, maybe whitelist for future things they do. As you mentioned, maybe they are just more kind of spam or things like that, or maybe it does have a coalescing effect. I think a great example of that is the machines, as we shout out to our Bitcoin machine guy earlier, Papadou. They have a lot of collections, right? And nobody really saw where it was going. Now they've dropped Satoria. It is pre-alpha. It is a little buggy, right? But it is a fun game that the Nookies and others have been playing, and it has things that you can actually sell on a marketplace for Zbit. And I've actually done that. I haven't done a ton of it, but I know guys that are making 30, maybe $100 if they find that a really rare item. Some of them are going for like 500 to 700 Zbit. So we're not talking about like pennies. There's an actual game that's playable that has an economy, and we'll see where it goes. But I know that they have more plans for it, and hopefully it's an example of things that could be chaotic for a long time, but in the overall vision, could have a future.
Yeah. I do think that made a difference though for the machines, putting out that game that has a
For sure.
marketplace. And I will say Ord's Games has put out very simple type of games that you actually can make, because I've
Yep.
done it, but it's very, very simple.
Mhm.
And so I'm just expecting a little bit more from them. I feel like they get a lot of like second chances, especially in the East,
Yep.
but hey, this device looks really cool. Supposedly you can mine Bitcoin on it. It's going to be so minimal,
Probably
but
fractal Bitcoin, honestly.
yeah,
I think it's going to be the
that
main
would
play.
be good to do
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah. That would make more sense. But yeah, we'll find out. And at the end of the day, I liked it even enough for just like a collectible for this time period. And I'll probably open one and keep some wrapped.
yeah, 100%. All right, Mike's World, one of our longtime members, says, I saw a bitmap sold for 10K yesterday. Is that true?
Wow.
Do you think bitmap prices will go back up? I'm curious as to your thoughts on this.
I mean, I did see they brought out the operating system and it was talked about a little bit, but with the prices, been the price for a while. I think that it could see some options maybe with a tie-in with Uni Worlds. That's where I would really tell people to try and tap in with, even for communities. They seem very open to doing that. We'll see if that continues with fruition. I know Block and other Goosenals have been chatting with them, and they're officially partnered. So it'll probably be a lot of AI tools and other things like that. But they seem open to working with you and trying to make a few specific assets as needed. But for bitmap specifically, I think that this is really what people want to see. I don't know if Uniworlds will succeed or not, but they're at least going to put their best foot forward, try out something. And yeah, there's been, various disparate projects that have done things, but we're not really hearing about any of them still, right? Because they haven't been built out to the full extent. Player base hasn't stuck around, whatever it may be. So it really just matters who's the attention economy is pointing at, and for right now it seems to be Fractal Bitcoin, Uni Worlds, and a lot of the pieces that Unisat's putting forward. And Bitmaps still has a strong community, still has a lot of loyal people, but a lot of them are also interested more on the DMT side maybe, or moved on and made their trade and moved out of them. And we'll just see where it goes from here. I've never been hugely into it, and I just hope that maybe it gets tapped in, and that would be a great way for them to kind of like spring forward by using someone else's software.
Yeah, I actually do think it's going to go up in value. I think there's a lot of opportunities for it. There's a lot of ecosystems that Bitmap has its fingerprints on, in my opinion. One of the big things is obviously Batoshi came back in to create Atlas and this other like OS, like you said. Another thing too is the bitmap.world got upgraded to or bitmap.game, sorry, got upgraded to a 3D environment. And the BRC 420 side of things, some of these builders on layer 1 have been, kind of voicing their complaints to Jeff from Merlin Chain and stuff, saying make this open source and stuff. So they figured out how to actually upgrade their assets by reinscribing on the original SAT of those BRC 420. So that's really cool. Nice. Shout out to Nine on that.
I think I saw that tweet.
Yeah, he changed his shirt on his avatar, right? So that's cool. Those are big steps, and I think that's what needs to happen more, guys. Like, yes, I think getting Jeff's attention for that and making it open source, that's big, but also take, the power into your own hands as individual creators and make things happen. And that's what we're starting to see, I think. Foxy, they have a bit miner using DMT. And from my knowledge, what they said is that you can use DMT to create a BRC 420 asset, like a new game, right? Or sorry, a new weapon in their or weapon in their game, because right now they only have the machine gun style and the knife. And I was like, well, can Ordinal Revolution create like a BRC 420 like sniper rifle with a brand on it? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, can you mine it? They're like, yeah. So I got to get clarity on that. And if that's possible, then we might be doing that, or that's an idea for somebody out there to do that. So yes, I do think they will be going up. And I know that was a long-winded answer there.
All good.
Yep. All right. Crypto Rasta says, thanks guys. Have you heard of UTXO stack? I don't know much about it, but it seems like it might be interesting. Have you heard of that?
I haven't heard of that one specifically. No.
Yeah, me neither. I haven't heard of it, but I'm pulling up their Twitter right now.
I know like development using a stack and UTXO, but I haven't really.
So it says UTXO stack, the Bitcoin native extension stack, L1 RGB plus L2 future of Bitcoin ecosystem. So that's interesting. RGB, that's like a legacy type of protocol that's been around for a while. Yeah. And so
similar to Atomicals was, kind of built off of that theory.
Yeah. So it looks like they're trying to use layer 1 programmability, something that they're going to create their own, and then, try to utilize layer 2 together to build something out, this is an interesting question because we don't know much about UTXO stack. I'll research that, but RGB also Counterparty, we're seeing some of these legacy protocols come out. Like Counterparty just had a space I saw with like quite a few people in there, and they're talking
Mhm.
about re-entering the race here. Do you think
Great.
these legacy protocols have a shot?
Yeah, for sure. If they can, add value to whatever project token, maybe they're used as a tool with combinations of other technology, whether it be ordinals or runes or opcat in the future, maybe or other merging of things. That's one reason, like fractal Bitcoin, I'm very interested in
Merge
because it
mining.
feels well, and it just feels like they plucked a lot of the great ideas that have been tried by different teams and took like the
Mhm.
best and kind of smashed them all together. And like I said it before, that has risk in itself. Maybe things don't, play well with each other. But they're at least like, learning from other people's successes and mistakes on how they should craft things. And obviously they're going to have their own flavor. A BSV team, they want bigger block size, they want faster speeds, things that have been argued about for a long time. Well, now they're just going to do it with their own sidechain.
Yep. Yep. I agree.
But yeah,
We'll
I hope they
definitely
get
look.
to test net and are able to play with it, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, well, he said I think there's supposed to be an L2 that claims that they can move assets without bridge from L1 to L2. I don't know about that.
Yeah, like
But
Bitcoin OS, right? Like great in
yeah,
theory, right? Let's see it in practice.
exactly. I have a funny comment I'm gonna leave for
Mhm.
the last comment, but before that, Drex, our guy, says thoughts on Liquidium token. Great product, good backing, users and volume look great, but the tokenomics and utility is shit. What do you guys think? I'm gonna go ahead and pass you the ball first.
For sure. I've been a user of Liquidium. I got airdropped some. I sold a bit. The price ran away from me, as most airdrops do when a lot of different people get it, right? They're just trying to sell it. So I kept my larger piece that I was dropped for the longer term. I don't know if I'll buy back in. We'll see kind of how the price action is in the overall runes market and make decisions on that. But for the most part, I've been just kind of keeping my airdrops for the longer term. And I do think Liquidium, it's the only L1 DApp currently that has a wide user base. Maybe some other ones can say that portions of it or even the full thing is on there, but Liquidium has, an amount of users. It's not massive into the millions, but into the thousands, maybe even 10,000s now. And they're actually doing things with time locks on L1 Bitcoin. So if things are going to expand, I feel like they're one of the teams that will really push that envelope. And then maybe they have portions of their services or site that use L2, Fractal, ICP. I have no clue, but that'll probably be very aware to the user, like these are L1 options and then these are L2 or a side chain or whatever options. I've heard him talk about that with different aspects, and I think they're hesitant to move away from L1 because that's where their focus has been. But if the market is really pushing for that, they might be a team that could do it because they're doing so well right now, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. It's interesting because I'll tell you who's the biggest complaining group of the Liquidium airdrop and token. It's not retailers like us. It's
Mm,
actually the VCs because they're
right.
not making money right now
Yeah, they got
on
time
that
locked
token.
for like a year or
Exact.
whatever.
Well,
Yeah.
not just that, not just that. The one, the I guess the little that was released, they're not making profit on. And in my mind, I'm just kind of like, what are you guys new here? Are you guys new to the crypto space? Because we're not in that time period, even for you
Right.
guys to make money. And I think that they just expect so much of that like super hyped up VC kind of positioning to where even
DeFi
if we're in
summer
the
esque or whatever.
or even when we're in a bear market that it's super hyped up and they get in so like at such a good price that whatever's released to them at that time they still can make really good money. And
Right.
Bitcoin's not EVM, Bitcoin's not Ethereum. It's definitely catered more towards the user, in my opinion. I feel like for the most
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
I do
Well,
think
and good
liquidity.
for Robin and Liquidium, right? They made,
Yep.
a much more fair deal than previous teams have on other chains and in the past, maybe even on Bitcoin. And they don't want to see that, huge dump because everybody's selling out. They want to have a year to build and show more and hopefully, get more holders and volume to that token through their, layer one DApp that's working right now.
Yep. 100%. 100%. All right. Mike's World asks any price predictions on Surf's airdrop. I do not know. I don't have any information myself on what their starting market cap is going to be. I know that they were very, very like particular in terms of taking their time to set everything up perfectly for their launch of their token. You know, I would say you probably have time to earn, points. Because yeah, you still have time to earn points for this airdrop by utilizing their platform. But yeah, they've been really close to the chest on it. I know that the time frame they were looking at was Q4, so the beginning of Q4, I think, is what they're looking at. But they get good volume right now because they're the only one on the Bitcoin sidechains that is a perpetual DEX. And I think they're just making sure that like all their investments and seed rounds and stuff are like good and all that stuff. But so I would say, probably expect October, November timeframe from when they're going to launch that or airdrop those tokens.
Yeah. And people want to wait till things have picked up, and there's going to be some timing elements to that. But that's another shout out to Liquidium too, right? They could have delayed their drop, and they just chose to get it out there, let it do its thing, and then it'll be ready for like the real cycle and not have this like instantaneous dump that could be detrimental to it. I think it's had a dump or whatever with the normal ecosystem of airdrops and then runes in general, and probably as more users become users of that DApp and they expand, and maybe they're staking, or maybe there's other utility, a break in fees, whatever it may be. There's a lot of options they can do as the team rolls out.
Yep, for sure. And I would imagine though it's going to probably start at 30. I mean, it could be wide range, right? 30 to like $70 million market cap, but we'll see. They probably look at themselves as like the GMX of our ecosystem right now. So just hang tight. We'll try to get as much information as possible. And this last thing right here from Patapoo says J25, in honor of filling in for Shizzy, please PP on someone's project or token.
We'll PP on blocks. What's going on with Ordinal Worms, dude? Yeah.
Let me call them on my Matrix phone so
we can
figure out what's going on with the worms. No, I have a lot of those Matrix phones, but I have my faith that something's going to happen with those. We'll see.
We just got to give Block a hard time. Yeah, watch out. He'll probably be getting a lot of that Surf Protocol token too. So there might be some selling at first, but it's another app that has utility, and if people are using it, right, that's going to play out longer term. But no, it's a really cool project. He had his son help with it, and Block's always been a great asset to the community. So
100%.
I've definitely, have my opinions and things like that, and I'll express them more in spaces, but I'm glad that anybody's building. I don't have to agree with it. There's going to be things over my head like the BitVM and the Snarks and things like that. And even like older projects like ICP that, I may have my opinion, but don't have enough knowledge, and I'll go look into it again. And things change over time. So you have to be willing to pivot, kind of like we talked about earlier, right? Ordinals, runes, tokens in this economy are, doing what they do, but you might want to go and do some research or do some perpetuals or whatever it may be to fill in the time, or even video games and step out.
Yep. I agree. And guys, you guys showed up for that Q&A, man. That was good. A lot of questions in there. Great questions. So we appreciate y'all. And if you wouldn't mind, take a second to check out our partners. BitPerp is, as I mentioned before, shooting to be the premium DEX of the Bitcoin Layer 2 ecosystem. They're going to be launching, I believe, in Q4 with Botonics. The paper trade competition will be starting soon, 2 to 3 weeks. We'll get you guys information. Yeah, maybe you and I can do something with that.
Yeah, good practice, right?
Yeah, exactly. Go research them more, bitperp.io. And then obviously Ordinal Hive. We talk about them every day. They are the Blur of Bitcoin. They're open right now, beta.ordinalhive.io. Go interact, go earn points. Those points will turn into tokens later on, is what we're hearing. Go interact. And then the last day is today until they announce it on their Twitter for Fluid tokens. Get that pass. Every interaction gets you points. And from the last time I heard, there was definitely some spots open for the top 1,000 spots. So the top 1,000 spots will get a Fluid pass. So do that. It's going to be over today. They're doing the snapshot. Take advantage, take advantage, take advantage. And they are a layer 1 DEX for runes. They use limit orders, buy and sell for liquidity. So check them out. And then obviously the last one, but not least, the Verothium DEX, the Bitcoin layer 1 focused DEX on Merlin chain. Check them out as well. And it's been a crazy 2 days with my guy J25. Any words to the community in case they have anxiety of our ecosystem or anything?
I would say just, stay at it, keep coming back day to day. Maybe you can't be making trades every day, but you can be researching or just chatting with some friends, making new acquaintances, and you never know what might happen. A year ago, I remember you guys were just starting out and we would chat in spaces and things like that. And you guys have continued to blossom. So it's just a pleasure always to be here and add what I can.
Yep. That was excellent, sir. And make sure you check out our website, ordinalrevolution.com. If you are new, you can get caught up. We have articles dating all the way from last year to today. And I think that is it. We live stream Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. And I think the cops are after Jay right now.
Yeah,
and
fire trucks.
Yeah, 8 a.m. Pacific time. And with that said, we appreciate it. And we'll check y'all tomorrow. Peace.
We OG, or no OG. You're not bullish enough, yeah. Oh no, you're not bullish enough. You ain't got the Ordinal. I get stoned by the bolo. Bitcoin set to overload, yeah. Experts on reload, yeah. You're not bullish enough, yeah. Oh no, you're not bullish enough. You ain't got the Ordinal. I get stoned by the bolo. Bitcoin set to overload. Experts on reload. Mempool getting hot. Everybody wanna rock, ayy. Runes is coming, everybody on a knot, ayy. It's a nuisance, Ordinal Revolution, ayy. Ordinal Revolution. Yo, it's my guy for real, bro. Got friends right now. Yo, BRC 420, bro.
Yeah.
Yo, that shit found fire, bro. Imagine if he in here. Yeah, lock it in the seal. Murder. I got balls of steel. Nuki on the field. Yeah, this shit for real. With no calls, I get so far. Got 100 phone calls that I go hard, and they gon' love me. Smoke weed, huddle back. I get shiesty. Where my Bitcoin looking lovely. All this Satoshi's nothing above me.